interested in continuing the battle, but what a game there. And, you know, shout out to you. I'm going to bring up the analysis board as the next game gets underway, just to say that you definitely called it in terms of as soon as G4 was played, even before G4, just talking about the risk of that, making a move like this to go for a pawn on E5, right? Sometimes we see players play these sort of, you know, almost computerish, kind of greedy-ish approaches where you can get a pawn and then defend, but the chess principles here suggest that the light squares would be too much of a problem, and Wesley so just in a very direct fashion just blows things open. Almost every piece was winning something on a light square, so Hikaru ultimately resigns. And okay, we come back to the live board, and we actually see the odds to win the match in the prediction from our Smarter Chess predictions with a dancing head algorithm, as I like to call it. That's the scientific term, dancing head algorithm.
Yeah, the more you know, and it seems like, of course, makes sense. With Wesley catching up, his chances are improving. And this position here that we have is very interesting, with double pawns in the c-file for both sides. But white is slightly better because white controls more space. If you look at the pawns, c4 pawn is, you know, even though the d5 and b5 squares are already under white control, you just have more space for pawns, which also gives you more space for your pieces. You can put a bishop on c3, just stare at the e5 pawn. Knight comes to c5, might go to e6 at some point. But where are black's pieces going? White is intending with this king h1 move to either play g4 and break open the king side with g5, or move the knight and play pawn f4, which is more typical. I don't think black is doing badly. In fact, I think black is comfortable here. I just see more ideas for white's position.
The knight comes to e6. Speaking of ideas for black, trying to poke at the dark squares and makes g3 the move instead of g4. Yeah, certainly close to equality, I think. But
knight takes e5? Was that just a blunder?
Oh my gosh! Hikaru puts his head in his hand and goes, "What am I doing? This is a one game match lead, and that was a one move blunder." Bishop f8.
Oh my god!
Let's show on the analysis board just so we can see it, and that's exactly why white is just up a clear point segment in the evaluation. Bishop f8 just gave up a pawn. Just straight up, just a one-move blunder.
That's shocking, because bishop f8, a very natural move, just retreating your bishop and then trying to open the d file, but it gave away a pawn. And now look at the center for Wesley here.
Yeah, this is one of those positions you show kids when you're giving them first chess lessons, and you say things like, "Now you're never going to actually get this in a real game," and just to get them to understand space. So. This is what you want to go for if you're a youngster trying to get better tuning in. But guess what? You're never going to actually get this center in a real game.
Yeah. And honestly, this is the only way this would be acceptable is if black had a light square bishop, where sometimes you give up a pawn, but have opposite colored bishops so you can get an attack on some of the weak squares. Desperation by Hikaru.
And Hikaru goes full in here with the capture on d4, though we seem to have lost Wesley So's camera. We'll get him back as soon as possible. Don't you worry, everybody. We'll let these two beautiful-looking portraits sit on camera as we work with that tech. Thank you for tuning into the Speed Chess Championship Final presented by Regium. We've got more than 10,000 of you with us across numerous platforms, and we hope you're happy to be here. Hikaru sacks a piece. It was desperate because, as we said, this center was too big to keep looking at. I think Wesley's going to win this game, tie the match, and we are get the popcorn out, buckle up. We're going to be in for a thriller.
An amazing comeback thus far by Wesley. He was down 4 games in this match, and he's able to tie the score, showing that he has a very strong just mentality.
Right.
Some players, they just start going on full tilt and they lose 4 games, they're going to lose 10 games.
Right.
For Wesley, he came back. He worked his way back in this match. And for Hikaru, he needs to take a lesson from Wesley there and be like, okay, take a breath. I'm still a very amazing player. I can still win this match, but I cannot afford to, think I must win because I've just lost a bunch of games.
Yep. Well, Wesley is going to win this game. Hikaru is likely going to lose another game here. Again, white is just up a piece and probably has the better chances to go with it. Okay, the A-pawn is going to make things a little spicy here. You got to convert, worry a little bit about your open king on diagonals, but let's see. An accurate move here. Knight g5 would have threatened mate, but then pawn takes f6 would have defended, so he plays f7 first. And the whole point
That's
is
actually
that
a really nasty
yeah, that's a
tactic.
nasty move. After queen takes, he's going to have the move knight to g5, and that's